these persons, they either Richard Priem as a member of the academic community and the top managers that helped us in developing the content, they want to express their vision within their company about the new trends, the new challenges on the management area. So we decided to design an agenda of this workshop, starting from one of the emerging key issue within the companies, which is the ethics, the ethical behavior within the organization. So the point is, we don't want to consider ethics just a word. We want to embed ethical behavior in the organizational behavior. So our idea was to ask Richard Priem to help us in developing this vision or whatever. Richard Priem is a professor of strategic management at the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee, and he's also the head of a center on ethics and ethics in business in Wisconsin, and he can provide us with some not only some concept, but also with some experiences and real cases, at least in the US-based market. Richard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paolo. First, I'd like to thank Dean Fontana and Professor Boccardelli for inviting me to speak at this conference. I am very pleased to be here, and I will just make a few comments about the U.S., what we have learned from the recent crisis, and then also how values and ethics are particularly going to be important for the International MBA at Lewis. And as Professor Boccardelli said, values and ethics are really embedded in the behavior of general managers. And those studying for MBAs ultimately are aiming to be general managers. These behaviors that occur become business practices when they're repeated over time. And so it's very important that the values on which the behaviors are based be the correct ones, be those that are sustainable, those that can provide long-term success rather than short-term success. And this is one of the reasons that issues of values and business sustainability are so important for the International MBA at Lewis. And let me just give a couple brief examples from the U.S. One thing that's a common statement here is that bull markets, when things are going successfully, make a lot of heroes. Everyone is a success when the market is soaring. We have a magazine here called CFO Magazine, Chief Financial Officer Magazine, and they award every year a CFO of the Year, the best financial officer in the United States. In 1998, CFO Magazine presented this award to Scott Sullivan, the Chief Financial Officer of WorldCom. In 1999, CFO Magazine presented the CFO of the Year award to Andrew Fastow of Enron. And in 2000, CFO Magazine presented the award to Mark Schwartz of Tyco Corporation. The other part of that saying is that bear markets make villains. When a bear market occurs, you learn a lot of things about the decisions that have been made in the past by business executives. And as you've probably figured that within 5 or 6 years of each of these gentlemen being awarded as CFO of the Year, they were all charged and ultimately convicted of securities fraud, embezzlement, and other illegal activities. Now, specifically, the magazine cited Andrew Fastow as developing innovations in finance that turned finance departments into money manufacturing machines. And indeed, that's what he did. But the underlying values were short-term, non-sustainable, as we saw when the downturn came. Again, these are situations where the judgments are very important, and these are value judgments. What business is good business for our firm? What business will be sustainable for our firm in the long run? And these sorts of judgments, more and more, are going to be especially important, because this bubble that we just recently had is not the last one. And hopefully we'll learn some things from it. A last example, in the financial system crash itself, here in the U.S., many of our best and brightest students went into finance. That's where you could make a lot of money, and they came up with many, many financial innovations. Together with that were pressures from the government, from stockholders, as we've mentioned already, pressures to do things like allow more people to own their own homes. And so there were pressures from the government to give mortgages to people who maybe weren't as qualified as they should be. And the new innovative financial instruments really allowed incentives from short-term thinking, in the sense that if I could originate a mortgage, even if the individual maybe had a small chance to pay the mortgage back, I could wrap it up, take my money now, pass it down the line to the next bank, which then would combine it with a bunch of other subprime mortgages, take some money, pass it down. And so the people who were doing the business ultimately were not the ones who were accountable for the quality of the business. And that sort of pass it on with no ownership contributed greatly to the financial calamity that we recently had. Now, it was clear to many, many people before the bubble burst that this was not a sustainable situation. This system could not continue. But nevertheless, many people went ahead assuming that they would not be the last one holding the bad instruments. Now, let me say that this isn't everybody. Okay? Most, certainly not like Andy Pascal and Scott Sullivan and those folks. Most general managers do their very best for the stockholders, for the customers, etc. Those are the values that are important and that will be important for the students in the Lewis International MBA program. I'm very pleased to be on the advisory board for this program. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to contribute to the direction of the curriculum for the program. Let me say again that by stressing values and ethics, this does not mean that there's no role for important things like entrepreneurial drive, entrepreneurial attitude, entrepreneurial risk-taking. But the values of this particular program will be for prudent entrepreneurial risk-taking, sustainable business models, long-term thinking rather than short-term thinking, and considering beyond what can I make today to what can I make that's going to be sustainable, be positive in the long run for my business and for the society. And in this sort of values-based business system, everyone who makes the decisions, and there are many, every day there are many value judgments that must be made in business that are based on the underlying values of the individual. It's very important that people own the outcomes decisions they make, rather than making the decision and then passing the outcome on ultimately to someone else. And it is only when values are imbued within a manager, and that manager then can spread those values throughout the corporation, particularly in international business, with many cultures, that there can be a reasonable degree of confidence that people will behave well and correctly when they have to make a value judgment. And so ultimately, the goal for the international MBA graduates of Lewis is that they will be able to be aggressive entrepreneurs, but also respond appropriately when the next bubble comes, wherever that may be in the world. And so those are my few comments, and thank you very much. And again, I really appreciate the invitation to speak to everyone.
Thank you, Professor Priem, for your very clear thoughts and words. I know that you have to go because you have to take a flight to Europe. But just a few comments before giving the floor to other person. One important comment that came in my mind was that you are pointed out a relevant issue, which is the balance between risk-taking opportunities and somehow the ethical behavior. So the point is not to agree upon the idea that the behavior must be ethical in the organization. The point is to balance all this stuff within the real life of the organization, since you have to continue to grow up, especially all the organizations that are public, that are listed in a stock market, must continue to create opportunities for growth. So it means that managers are rewarded for this growth. You have to display a risk-taking behavior in order to create these opportunities and to create the options for the growth for the organization. And you have to present high financial performance. So you have to present results on the stock market. So the problem is to create an equilibrium between all these issues. And what we wanted to underline here is that we start from ethics in business,